Before we get into the episode, we would like to issue a content warning.
Due to the nature of this show, we will be discussing sensitive topics, which could include murder, violence, sexual assault, domestic abuse, animal abuse, elder abuse, alcohol, drugs, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, and more. Please take this into account when deciding when, where, and if to listen. Welcome to Looking for a Man in His 30s, a Criminal Minds podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Sara, and today we'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 4, Plain Sight, which first aired on October the 12th, 2005.
But first, elephant in the room again. Third time in 4 episodes. We are re-recording this straight after we re-recorded episode 3, so we are in the same clothes because I was not organised enough to be like, Sarah, bring an extra t-shirt.
No.
So, Sarah, anything crazy happened to you in the 5 minutes since we last spoke?
The weather got rubbish. Got a bit windy outside. The fridge keeps making popping noises.
Oh, so
really?
Yeah. So I've just been in a fight with my desk, which you saw because we were on webcam the entire time as I tried to wrestle it into the right place. So glad I didn't record that part of the episode.
And no.
Right. So Sarah, shall we get into the episode recap?
Yeah, so wheels up.
Wheels up. So it opens in San Diego. It's sunny, a funky song is playing, and we approach a house which just kind of looks like a Tuscan mansion because it's the early 2000s. And there is a woman doing step aerobics. Now, originally, this woman, I am like, she is Isles from Rizzoli and Isles. It's not her. But constantly throughout this script, I have referred to her as Isles. So we're going to hope that I do not say that at all.
No.
So she's also doing step-ups with the little block. And honestly, I couldn't do it. I would fall. And oh shit. The music suddenly turns down and a hand appears in the open window and someone has come into the house. They turn off the tap in the kitchen, which if someone had managed to fix the leaky tap in my kitchen, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Just come in through the window. Absolutely. But unfortunately, he doesn't leave right after fixing the tap. So he's less a helpful neighbor and more, a threat to human life. He walks straight over to a silverware drawer, grabs a knife, and begins walking up the stairs. And again, it's the early 2000s. This is the McMansion. It's got marble in the entryway and up the stairs. It just looks very fancy in the way that you thought like normal American houses look like. And now that you're an adult, you're like, oh, that's not how many people in suburbia live. Now, the woman cannot hear. And the guy is turning the doorknob really slowly, really quietly. And so she can't hear anything until he comes right up behind her. And suddenly she turns and a gloved hand grabs her face. Fucking terrifying. So cut to the scene where the crime scene investigators are all over the house. They are looking at cutlery all over the floor. There's lipstick in the mirror. And one of the crime scene investigators goes, hey, can you take a better picture of her face? Absolutely awful picture. It's literally like her eyes are forced open. It cuts to the BAU and it's Reed's birthday. He is 24, which when I first watched this was like, oh, wow, that's quite mature. And now I'm like, oh my God, you're a child.
The baby.
So it's Reed's birthday, and the team are tricking him with the candles that you can't blow out. But even after JJ tells him, he still keeps trying to blow them out. Like,
cute.
I don't know if you do actually have an IQ of 187. I think you might be a bit of a pretty boy, a bit of a himbo. So, Hotch says, isn't it amazing he knows what he knows and he's only 24? Imagine what he'll do by the time he's 50. And it's like, yeah, he knows a lot, but he is trying to blow out candles that he's already been told can't blow out. I don't think he's that smart. I think you're overestimating him. But then Hotch gets called in by Agent Anderson, and it's taken away from the party. And then we get this really quite iconic scene in the fandom of Spencer coming over to Gideon, and Gideon's like, are you having fun? And JJ offers Reed the first slice of cake for the birthday boy, and she calls him Spence, and he goes to Gideon, do you know, she's the only person in the whole world that calls me Spence. Which is very sweet. But as always, there's no actual time for parties or a personal life because there's a case. And Hotch tells everyone to get to the briefing room. Like now. The unsub is being called by the press the Tommy Killer. He's killed 6 women in 3 weeks, so that's not much of a cooling off period and is actually quite a rapid escalation. We don't get a wheels up. I'm sorry, Sarah. I know we also didn't get one in the last episode. I'm wondering if maybe I made this up and it doesn't happen as often as I thought it did.
Probably.
So Hotch says, see you on the plane instead. And Morgan goes, oh, why is he being called the Tommy Killer? And Hotch is like, yeah, it's like the rock opera. So basically, for those of you who didn't know, rock band The Who had a song which was called Pinball Wizard. And in that, it contains the lyrics, that deaf, dumb and blind kid sure played a mean pinball. Now, I'm just like, this seems like a stretch from going, yeah, Tommy was a deaf, dumb and blind kid to he's gluing their eyes open. Like, first of all, that's not blind. He's gluing their eyes open. Second, what are you talking about? I want to know which journalist is in control of writing the nicknames for serial killers, because you're not very good at it. So, and then we learn the horrifying truth, which really upsets me, that the kids found her when they got home from school. And it just seems like a particularly vicious part of any murder to have your kids be the ones to find you. That's absolutely awful. And it's going to scar them for life.
Yeah.
Hotch begins by reading the message left on the mirror in lipstick. Apparently, the guy started leaving it after the 4th murder, which is a bit weird, but it is how they've managed to link all of the murders to him. So is he trying to get caught? Well, turns out that Reed knows the poem, and it's actually a conversation between a woman and death from the late 1600s. You know, those famous poems that somehow the murderer knows. So are we looking for a literature professor? And Spencer's like, well, anyone with the internet would be able to look this up. And I'm like, I think what you're missing here is who would want to look that up. Like, sure, you could Google just about anything, but most people aren't like, right, obscure poems from the late 1600s. But so, you know, I have an internet connection and I wouldn't look up a 17th century poem just out of nowhere. And Reed says, you should see what comes up when you search the word deaf in a search engine. So let's just find that out, Sarah. It is the 22nd of July. I am putting deaf into Google, which is okay. Oh no. Oh my god, Sarah.
What?
You know from oh my god. So he was in the Cosby Show, but he was also it's Malcolm Jamal Warner, who I know from the show The Resident. He's died.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he drowned.
Oh god, that's awful.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's apparently what you get if you Google deaf. So that's not fantastic. But the first thing you get is the Cleveland Clinic going. Death marks the moment when your vital organs stop working to keep you alive. So we'll go back to the story, and I'm probably going to cut that out because that was distressing now. So then we get Gideon saying that the eyes are the signature while he's sketching a lot of eyes in a notebook, which, hey, they're great drawings. And, you know, I think about that time when my media teacher said he didn't care if we drew in the margins of our work, because sometimes drawing stuff can unlock the part of your brain that's looking for an answer. So it may look a bit unprofessional, but it might actually help him find the killer faster. But also, if you're looking for a killer and the signature is eyes, like maybe don't turn up with this notebook full of drawings of eyes.
Nah, no way.
That's creepy. Reed is told to stay on the messaging because he is the only one that's going to want to look up the 16th century poem. So perhaps he can tell us how many verses are left in the poem, how many more women are going to be killed. What messages are there in the poem that could point us towards an answer?
Yeah.
And Reed says, hey, do you know they used to believe that eyes could give a snapshot of like a reflection of someone, of the person who murdered them? It would show you like the last thing they saw before they died. So the others are like, yeah, thanks, Reed. Anyway, moving on. And Gideon says, finding new ways to hurt each other is what we're good at. Cut to an older lady in her garden picking a lemon off the tree, and she's being watched by someone, but we can't stop there because the team is arriving at the headquarters. Walking straight past the captain of that team, which is a little rude, so Hotch apologizes to everyone at the station for his team being rude. Reed is looking at the poems that are left at the crime scene, and JJ comes up and says, oh, creepy. And Reed's like, oh, no, it's actually romantic. And it's like, sorry, what? Have you lost your mind? Shut up, Reed. This is why you don't go on dates. Anyway, JJ clearly just like goes, all right, and walks off, because I would also nope out of that conversation with a co-worker. One of the police officers asked if they want to go back and look at the crime scene because it's still taped off. The husband hasn't wanted to go back inside, and honestly, same, I would be like, I never want to go back in again.
Yeah.
Elle says, Elle, you may remember worked at sex crimes before joining the BAU. Hotch puts her on focusing on the rapes to find out what sort of rapist he is, independent of the murders. And then we go back to the old woman in, I mean, I've said old, but she's 55, so this does seem a little insulting. She is in a basically Tuscan Olive Garden kitchen, because again, it's 2005. She's cooking and she doesn't hear someone coming through the door, which is a little weird because she's not even listening to music, and he comes right up behind her, grabs her, and immediately cut. We get another scene from someone who is doubting whether profiling is real or not. You could just look at a scene and tell me what toothpaste the criminal uses. Morgan has to explain again. I think a lot of this is convincing the audience, but I also think it has the issue of there are a lot of people IRL in law enforcement who would be like, yeah, anyway, so we were just going to swab some DNA and find out who was in the area at the time, but sure.
Yeah.
You go on with your, he has a stutter, he drives a truck. So, yeah, as you learn, I think that it's just vibes profiling. No real crime detection, just vibes.
Yeah.
We learn as Morgan and Gideon approach the latest crime scene that there have been increased patrols in the area since the fourth victim. So how is this guy still managing to strike in an area where time off and holidays have been cancelled and there are so many cops walking around? They think he must blend into this upper middle class. The phone rings and it's Hotch saying there's a newer assault. This time, the woman we saw with the lemon tree. The officer who drove them there, he's like, right, well, I'm going. Come on, back in the car. He's running off. And they're like, other people from the station are going there. We're going to stay here. And he's like, no, you need to get a victim statement. And they're like, yeah, someone else will handle that. We're already here. They say, we can do more here. And he's like, all right, cool, I'm off. And just like drives off, which is just kind of very funny. He doesn't even want to tell them anything about the crime scene.
No. Strange.
So Gideon goes in through the front door, but Morgan goes around the back to enter the same way the unsub did, squeezing himself through a window, and assesses that the killer must be athletic to be able to get through that, which is fair because I would have got stuck halfway like a dog in a cat lap.
Me too.
Also, Morgan isn't wearing gloves at this crime scene. Another thing that my mum pointed out. Gideon walks into the crime scene, which has, like, all the evidence has been removed, and obviously the body has been removed as well. And you get one of the camera tricks that I really like, except not in this instance where it's a dead woman he's imagining. But Morgan is wondering why the guy would take appliances from downstairs and smash them in the bedroom. And yeah, pretty good question. If someone's like dragging a blender all the way upstairs just to smash it in the bedroom, that's quite a lot of rage, isn't it?
There's a lot of effort as well.
Yeah. Elle, at the other crime scene, Elle says she's going to go talk to the victim. And Hotch is like, why? What do you mean, why? What's a stupid question to ask? Oh, I'm going to go talk to the victim. Oh, really? What a novel idea. Bit odd. Personally, I would have talked to people who weren't there at all. Or perhaps I would have asked a dog. You know, a random neighborhood dog. Hey, can you give me any advice? And then these dogs that can obviously talk, they'll give me a better thing than the victim herself. Sure, why? And she's like, because she's just been, like, assaulted and she's surrounded by men.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that doesn't feel great.
No.
Back at the other crime scene, Morgan is wondering why our first victim, or the first victim in the episode, didn't hear the plates break. And then he's like, oh, maybe they were broken afterwards? But who would murder someone and then stick around to break all these plates? Elle is speaking to the victim at the other crime scene and giving the woman time to think and explain things in her own time. The woman is blaming herself, saying, I can't believe I didn't hear someone come in. Back at the crime scene, Morgan and Gideon are going over it. The killer vacuumed after he killed her because there's no mark in the floor from where a step would have been when you do step aerobics. You know, it flattens the floor a little bit, the carpet.
Yeah, it'd have an indent.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm just like, at this point, a tap has been broken in my house for 6 weeks. I definitely haven't vacuumed it. This guy is doing more, you know, home care than I do. And I haven't even murdered someone.
Yet.
So Elle is speaking to the victim. The woman is saying, I think this is all my fault. And Elle's like, hey, no, it's not your fault. Take some time, explain things in your own words. And she's like, the only thing I remember is his eyes. My husband said he was a black man, but all I saw was his eyes through the ski mask. And Elle is thinking, why would you wear a ski mask if you were going to kill someone anyway? Which is very smart, because I initially was like, the husband's a racist. That's why. I mean, he quite possibly could be a racist and also did see a black man. But I want you to know, I immediately thought, this guy's a racist. He's going to send them down the wrong path looking for this mysterious black man.
Mm.
But yeah, it's not the same guy, because otherwise, why would you wear a ski mask if you were planning to kill someone? Back at the FBI headquarters, Spencer is wondering why the killer would choose to not start leaving poems until after the fourth victim, because there are 10 verses from death alone in that poem. Now, I do have to say something a bit controversial, Sarah. The poem, written between death and that woman, I think with the right lighting and the right filter, writing that in lipstick on a mirror would actually make a really good 2014 Tumblr post, and I'm half willing to actually do it. Not on my own Tumblr, I'll put it on the podcast Tumblr.
Oh no, yeah, but that would be cool.
So they determined that the increased media coverage and patrols start after the fourth victim, which is when he first left the poem, because until then, people didn't realize there was a pattern. Gideon is ready to deliver the profile. Is anyone else? No. Does that matter? No. Gideon explains that the unsub must carry the weapons with him, the tape, the glue, the wire, sort of like a kill kit. And then we get the shots I normally like because the background disappears, but this time it is a dead woman's body, so I'm not like keen on it. It's not exactly stopping and then being like, oh, he's just walking across the street.
Damn, dead body.
The unsub has definitely got transport of some kind because he's getting between the crime scenes. He also has a technical job, works with his hands, electrician, computer repair guy, etc. He wouldn't stand out. And he may even be using a company van in the daytime. Because if you just saw a white van rock up in your suburban neighborhood, you might be like, what the fuck is this? But if it says DJ's Electricals on the side, you're like, oh, someone's having their electricals rewired. He's hiding in plain sight.
Dun, dun, dun.
The title of the episode.
Yeah.
So they gather he must be middle class because working class people would stick out too much in this neighborhood. But I'm also like, well, I suppose that most other countries do have a different definition to middle class than Brits do.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what do you mean is middle class? Anyway. So we're back to Elle with the sexual component of the crimes. She says that he's an anger excitation rapist, which is something I only know about from Law and Order. It means that he's aggressive in the crime because he feels inadequate in the rest of his life. He is literally angry at these women. So the team say the guy is definitely white, and the captain's like, hey, we've got witnesses saying it's a black man. And Hotch is like, yeah, if it was the Tommy killer, he would have known what time her husband was coming home, and he wouldn't have worn a ski mask. So that's just a different rapist. The Tommy killer is definitely white. And now my favorite part about any crime procedural is when they decide to bait the killer or criminal into revealing themselves, because it really just shows how dumb criminals actually are. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, so we're going to say it's someone else, and you're going to be like, hey, no, it's me. Shut up. Someone's taking credit for your crime. So I just find it so funny. So the team goes to arrest the man they believe is responsible for the older woman's assault. It's a guy that does odd jobs for them. They bring him into the police station at the same time that JJ is giving a press conference saying, don't worry guys, we've caught the Tommy killer. And they do this in front of the gathered press, so the press will make the connection between the unsub and the rapist without actually having to lie. Also, a perp walk is prejudicial, guys. Any defense lawyer would get that thrown out. So now we are back in the office of unmitigated superiority, aka Miss Penelope Garcia. She's getting ready to put a trace on the phones because the unsub is definitely going to call into the tip line. Cut to the unsub in half darkness watching the press conference and squeezing a drinks can so hard it runs over the edge, and oh my god, he's going to cut himself. I am also a drink can squeezer. And some woman who you do not see yells at him from off screen to turn the TV down. Reed asks Elle why he can't get a date, and I'm like, dude, you tell them that poems from death are romantic. Stop. And Elle is like, yeah, it's not because of what you do, it's because you don't ask people out. But suddenly, the tip line comes in. The officer who answers it is doing a thumbs up, and the unsub is screaming down the phone, I am deaf. What? What do you mean you're screaming, I am deaf, down a fucking phone line? And he's like, next time I kill a woman, I'll be thinking of you, which, fucking creepy.
Right.
Cut to a woman picking up her newspaper in a dressing gown, which, I mean, I'm like, why are you going outside in just your dressing gown? But maybe suburbia has more lax rules on wearing pajamas outside of the house than I do. The team says that because the unsub hasn't done the research he normally does, he's going to make a mistake today. And at this point, I'm like, are you saying that a woman is going to get killed today, but at least he'll make a mistake? I'm unclear. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to Looking for a Man in His 30s, a Criminal Minds podcast. So the team are looking at kind of the area that they think the unsub will target today. We cut to the area. There are a couple of different delivery trucks pulling up. There are some women speed walking. There's some delivering men delivering kegs of water, I think. So they're all sitting around in cars, watching. Gideon and Elle are outside the last crime location, which is kind of odd because he's not going to show up there. That woman's already dead.
Yeah.
Why are you not somewhere else? Reed and Morgan are sitting in a car together, and they look like the least likely people to ever be sitting in a car together. Reed does not even look at home in this car. And he's like, yeah, do you know, we're not looking for a needle in a haystack. We're looking for a needle in a pile of needles. A needle would stand out in a haystack. I think so. One of the police doing their regular patrols of the neighborhood pulls up on Elle and Gideon to say, hey, who the hell are you? What are you doing? Why are you just waiting outside the house of this woman who's been murdered? Which, fair question, but are people not allowed to sit awkwardly in cars anymore?
No.
And you're just thinking, well, actually, Gideon says out loud, how could the unsub not be seen by police doing that many patrols? And I thought at this point we'd already covered that. He is obviously a delivery driver or a technician. No one is going up to men who are like going into their trucks or anything to be like, hey, who are you? What the hell are you doing here? Well, clearly I'm here to fit the new toilet in number 17. That's why I've got a toilet in the back of my truck. So Elle looks up to see a bird on the electrical wire, and Gideon, our resident bird expert, she nudges him and goes, hey, what kind of bird is that? And he's like, roast bee. I don't know what that is. I'm sure it's a lovely bird. But then something twigs. The electrical wire, the call being routed through 25 different substations, which is why Garcia couldn't track it earlier. They run into the house and up the stairs. Why is the rapist making them turn their heads away from him when he's an anger excitation rapist? Gideon then lies on the bed in the same position as the dead woman, which I feel is gross. But he realizes by getting in that position that he is looking out of the window towards the electrical wires. Boom. The answer is working on the electrical wires is how he's getting in without being seen, because who pays attention to the person doing the street repairs? You don't even look at them. You're just like, oh, well. Or, in my case, it's like, how many more roads are they going to shut for roadworks that they never seem to be doing? I feel like the council is just playing a game with us now.
Yep.
So we're back to Garcia, who is again bragging about her amazing abilities, and they determine that it's definitely a phone repair guy. He can see when the police patrols are, he can see when the husbands are leaving for work, he can determine the exact right time to attack, and no one is even paying attention to him up the top of the pole. He would even have all of the items in the kill kit. Tape, wire, glue, all things that you could very easily need for electrical repairs. The woman from earlier, who is being watched, the woman who went out to collect her mail dressed in her dressing gown, she is feeding her little baby. She turns around to go get some juice for him out of the fridge. And the fridge, by the way, it's designed so it looks like a cupboard, because again, it's the early 2000s. You don't want to see the stainless steel in your rustic kitchen. So as soon as she opens this door, I'm like, oh my god, she's going to close it. He's going to be behind her, like behind the door, because I've literally forgotten what happened in the episode. And I'm thrown off by this for a few seconds, and then she closes the door, he's not there, and I'm like, what on earth? And she turns around and he's feeding her baby.
Yeah.
That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Morgan and Reed are going to the phone company, and Morgan slams on the desk, demanding to know where Francis Greeny is. Well, it looks like he's in this woman's house getting his tools out of the bag because she is crying, saying, please don't hurt my baby. Everyone is sent to patrol neighborhoods around there. They find his truck and they are just leaving cars in the middle of the road and jumping out. They are going through yards. They are looking at telephone poles. Can you see this guy? Of course, it looks like it's only Hotch, Elle, and Gideon actually doing any of the running, so I guess the other cops are there somewhere. Don't worry. So they can't see him on the pole, and they're thinking he's already inside a house. Luckily, Gideon finds a back gate open, hears a baby crying, and goes to investigate. The baby has been left alone in his high chair. He is absolutely fine, but you can see the tools on the counter, and yeah. This is the first time there's actually been another human in the house, even if it's just the baby. So the unsub is making mistakes. And this baby is screaming. And I'll be honest, the first time I looked after one of my friend's kids, I put him in the high chair to give him some food, and he was screaming and nearly rocked himself out of it. So I had to hold on to the high chair and open the fridge to get the blueberries out at the same time. It was a nightmare. So I'm surprised that the kid is still upright. And also, I don't know how you would be able to do anything while the baby was screaming. So Gideon rings Hodge, tells him the address, and walks through the house, quiet as anything, to find out where the unsub is. And you see him through the glass at the top of the stairs. So Gideon he can hear the unsub talking. He steps on a floorboard that creaks, and yikes, you're thinking that man is going to come out immediately. But he's too busy yelling at the woman he's attacking. The woman is tied to the bed. The unsub is pointing a gun at her, and Gideon is bursting in, pointing a gun at Franklin. He says, hey, let her go. If you kill her, I'll shoot her, and I'll say we caught a common variety burglar. No fame, no infamy for you, and the answer will remain, and the Tommy killer will remain uncaught. And again, I do like when they bait unsubs and prove how stupid criminals are. Because it's like, yeah, you are kind of stupid, aren't you? Because, you would still be dead, but you're upset that no one will accredit the Tommy killer murders to you. Don't get it. The team promise him that he can be famous as long as he doesn't kill that woman. And Potch arrests him, and Elle and Gideon untie the woman and reassure her that her baby is fine downstairs with the beat cop. And I'm glad she's not dead. But also I am like, this guy is just dumb. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Cuts to the jet, and Gideon has got Reed a birthday present. It's tickets to a Redskins game. Yeah. Now known as the Washington football team, because it's hard to pick a non-racist team name, apparently. Reed says, oh, yeah, do you want to come with me? That'll be fun. And Gideon is like, no. You're going to take someone who's a really big Redskins fan. Because he is setting Spencer and JJ up. Has JJ ever expressed any interest in Reed? Never mind. Doesn't matter. Gideon is a matchmaker extraordinaire. So, we see Spencer go over to JJ, sits down, starts talking to her, and so apparently they're now going on a date.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, what do you think happened on the date? Try and pretend that you have not seen the next episode.
I don't know. Like, he seems very socially awkward, so it'd probably be an awkward date. And he'd probably just be like spewing facts to her about like the game and stuff. Or like the players.
Well, will you find out next episode? Will you find out in 15 years' time? Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
I shall listen to you.
But that is the end of my episode recap, Sarah. So now you want to move on to discussion? Welcome back to Looking for a Man in His 30s, a Criminal Minds podcast.
And this is where we get onto the episode discussion. So, Emma, do you want to talk about the interesting points?
Yes. So, something that really irks me about this episode is that long-time Criminal Minds fans will know when they were first getting all the characters together, they were like, okay, and we'll have Spencer Reid. He's going to be bi. And then they kind of nixed the whole thing in this episode by being like, hey, actually, we're going to put in a storyline about him really fancying JJ and going on a date with her. And if you're thinking, Sarah, wait, that's not what bi means. You're confusing that.
Yeah.
Bisexuals can and do date men, women, people of other genders. Yeah, I know. I don't know why the Criminal Minds producing staff does not know that, but it was something that they said came down from higher up in the network. And so we are robbed of canonical queer main characters. And this is not the first time in the series where that happens. I'll be sure to point it out again when it does, Sarah.
Thank you.
Do you want to go on to the notable guest stars while I sieve quietly?
Yes, I. So we have Sankrish Bala, who's an Indian actor, and he played the role of Jordan in this episode. If you're wondering who Jordan was, he was the receptionist.
Yes.
And he's most known for his role as Vikram Singh in the crime comedy series Castle. Mm-hmm. And he's also appeared in many other shows throughout the years, like The Walking Dead, NCIS, Code Black, just to name but a few. And another actor we found was Kirk B.R. Waller, and he played the role of Franklin Greene.
The unsub.
No, the unsub, yes. I totally forgot that bit. I don't know.
No, it's alright. I didn't write it down.
It's okay. So yeah, he played the role of the unsub in this episode. And his most notable role was for the role of Agent Gene Crane in the X-Files.
Woo! I've never seen the X-Files.
I saw it in like the late 90s, I'm thinking. But I don't remember much. Like, my mum would probably know more about it because I was 90. Anyways, so should we get on to this week's episode MVP?
Yeah. Now, as always, choosing our baby girl or pretty boy of the episode is a really hard choice that we take ages to determine. We go over all of the facts, compare all of the characters. Just kidding. Our baby girl for the episode is Elle again.
Yay!
It always is. Because we are just Elle stans. In fact, I'm thinking of changing the name of the podcast to Looking for Elle Greenaway. Oh my goodness. So yes. And the reason why is because she thinks it's actually appropriate to go over and talk to victims of sexual assault about the crime that they have just been a victim of. You know.
Yeah.
Something I would have assumed was quite normal. Like, hey, if a woman has recently been sexually assaulted by a man, do not surround her with men who are firing questions at her.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Yeah.
Not the best idea.
Not entirely sure why that wasn't standard practice by 2005. Yeah. But
it's common sense.
Yes, but Elle is
get a
the only person in the team that can exhibit common sense.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just like, let me just crawl through a window. Let me just kick a door down. Sorry, all of that was Morgan. But yeah. Our baby girl for the episode is Elle Greenaway, and in fact, you may as well just skip forward past this segment in future because about half the time it's going to be Elle anyway.
Maybe Garcia in the future, but mostly Elle.
Maybe. And it's been JJ in the past. We just have a strong bias towards strong female characters.
Go power.
Okay, so Sarah, are you ready to go with the true crime recap?
Yes, I am.
Sarah, it's time to deliver the profile.
Thank you, Emma. So, this is where we delve into the world of true crimes that are similar to those featured in the Criminal Minds episodes, or have inspired the writers. So, for this episode, the unsub appears to be heavily based on the unidentified Axeman of New Orleans, a serial killer from the early 20th century. So, both were stalkers who targeted women. Both stalked their victims for a period of time prior to the attacks. Both killed the victims in their own homes. Both had 6 known fatal victims. And both of them viewed themselves as above mortals. So in the case of the unsub in the episode, he sees himself as death, and the Axeman saw himself as a demon. And the Axeman, who has never ever been identified to this day, he was reportedly active between May 1918 and October 1919. So his first attack was on May 22nd of 1918 in the corner of Upline Street and Magnolia Street in New Orleans. The victims at this time were Italian grocer Joseph Maggio, 41, and his wife Catherine, 36. The injuries they sustained, they had the throat slashed and heads bashed in with an axe. Joseph survived initially, but later died from his injuries. The couple were found by Joseph's brothers, Jake and Andrew. Coincidentally, the same name as 2 of my nephews. Police found bloody clothes belonging to the murderer at the crime scene. Andrew was initially suspected as he worked as a barber, but later he was dropped as a suspect. A cryptic message was found in chalk on a sidewalk just a few blocks from where the murder scene was, which read, "Mrs. Maggio is going to sit up tonight, just like Mrs. Tony." This was later interpreted as a reference to an alleged attack on another couple of Italian grocers, Anthony and Johanna Ciambria, in June of 1911. Johanna had been given the nickname Mrs. Tony by some of their customers, in reference to her husband's name. The Axeman's second attack was on June 27th of 1918 on the corner of Daugenois Street and La Harpe Street in New Orleans. The victims this time was the grocer Louis Bizuma and his mistress Harriet Ann Lowe. Injuries sustained were blunt force head injuries. Both survived the attack, but Harriet later died on August 5th. The victims were found by a bakery wagon driver. Perhaps due to delirium from her injuries, Harriet claimed that Louis was a German spy and claimed he was responsible for the attack. He was arrested but later released without charge. The third attack was on August 5th of 1918 on Elmira Street in New Orleans. The victim this time was a pregnant woman named Mary Schneider. She was badly wounded by blunt force trauma, but thankfully survived. The fourth attack was on August 10th of 1918 in New Orleans again, and the victim this time was Joseph Romano, age 80. He was found with severe head injuries by his 2 nieces, but sadly died 2 days later. His nieces spotted an intruder leaving the house, describing him as a dark-skinned, heavy-set man wearing a dark suit and a slouched hat. The fifth attack happened on March the 10th of 1919 on Jefferson Ave and 2nd Street in Gretna, Louisiana. The victims this time were grocer Charles Cortimiglia, his wife Rosie, and their daughter Mary, age 2. Parents sustained skull fractures, but thankfully survived. Sadly, Mary was stabbed in the neck and died. Rosie initially accused father and son Orlando and Frank Giordano, who were rival greengrocers. Both were exonerated after Rosie confessed she'd implicated them out of spite. Other accounts suggest that the police had compelled her to implicate them in the first place. On March 13th, 1919, a letter was sent to the Times-Picayune newspaper, which caused widespread panic upon publication. It read, "Hell, March 13th, 1919. Esteemed mortal, they have never caught me and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe, besmeared with blood and brains of he whom I have sent below to keep me company. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offence at the way they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but His Satanic Majesty, Francis Joseph, etc. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better that they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there is any need of such a warning, but I feel sure the police will always dodge me as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as a most horrible murderer, which I am, but I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay you a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, for I am in a close relationship with the angel of death. Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I am going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I am going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time. At the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it on Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe. Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that has ever existed, either in fact or realm of fantasy. Signed, the Axeman.
I know I said I wouldn't interrupt, but oh my god, yeah. I hate, but right, serial killers, already bad.
Yeah.
I'm not defending any serial killers, but the ones that are like, oh, let me pen a letter to the newspaper. Ooh, native Tartarus, I am a demon. Ugh. You're insufferable. I can see why people don't like you.
Yeah.
My God. You know how people write insane letters into newspapers that's normally in green ink, and you're just like, no.
Yeah.
I'm just going to discard that. This looks like a nut job has written this. It's like some of the comments we get, not we get as in me and you, Sarah, or on the podcast, but if you, because I work in marketing, so I sometimes get like random things. There is a specific man who writes things under the in the comments under Facebook posts that I put out for a brand. And oh my God, every time I see his comment, I'm like, you're insufferable. Why can't I block you? There is nothing that literally, it barely related to what the post was about. And honestly, if I found out that he was a serial killer, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be like, yeah, He seemed insufferable from the jump.
Yeah.
I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon. Fuck off.
Off ball. Very weird. He can fuck back to the nether regions of where the fuck he came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sarah. Continue.
It's
I'm just wanting to get that out before I literally started screaming.
Right. So the sixth attack by the Axeman was on August the 10th of 1919 in New Orleans. The victim this time was Italian grocer Steve Boker. His head was cracked open with an axe, but thankfully he survived. However, police found a bloody axe in Steve's kitchen. Seventh attack was on September the 3rd of 1919 in New Orleans again. The victim was Sara and she was 19. Her head was bludgeoned while she was asleep, but thankfully she survived. Once again, the weapon was left at the scene. The eighth attack was on October the 27th of 1919 in New Orleans. The victim, grocer Mike Pepitone. He was bludgeoned to death with an axe, and the intruder was spotted by Mike's wife. So, for the MO of the Axeman, he mostly targeted Italian immigrants and Italian Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the victims were grocers. And the Axeman entered the homes by chiseling panels in the doors and walls. The victims were attacked with weapons from their own homes, which were often left following the attacks. As for the profile of the Axeman, according to eyewitnesses, he was a white working-class male in his 30s. Police believed him to be an experienced burglar, and he used railroad shoe pins to break into the house, which was a common burglary tool at the time. Crime analysts suggest that the Axeman could have been a sexual sadist who specifically sought female victims, as supported by some of the cases in which the man was wounded while the woman was killed. They also hypothesized that male victims were only attacked if they attempted to thwart the Axeman's attack on the females. Over the years, there have been suspects, but the police have never identified who the Axeman was. A century later, still nothing. Many suspects were put out. For example, Joseph Mumphrey. He was allegedly shot to death by the widow of the last known victim in revenge, who was acquitted on grounds of self-defense. Mumphrey was said to have tried to steal money and jewelry from Mrs. Pepitone and threatened to kill her the same way he killed her husband. Andrew Maggio, the brother of Joseph Maggio in the first attack, he was later acquitted. Louis Ubicon, an African-American man suspected after the second attack, but he was released due to lack of evidence. Louis Bisuma, the second attack victim, was falsely accused by his mistress and later acquitted. Emmett Daniels, a World War I veteran, had previously been charged in 1917 for allegedly beating and killing a woman with an axe in Belgium 2 years earlier. He was acquitted from this one. An unidentified vampire. Now, this was a theory proposed by investigators as the intruder left no trace when entering and exiting the house. They believed him to have superpowers.
I'm sorry, what? I know I said I wouldn't interrupt, but so all of these men have been accused and acquitted or released because of lack of evidence, and then they're just like an unidentified vampire.
Yeah.
He had superpowers. That's how we couldn't find him.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't think it is. I think you're just not... Like, I know it was 100 years ago, but if you're blaming supernatural entities, my guess is that you're just not very good at your job.
I think they're all on drugs because if you think back then, everything had cocaine in it. So, maybe
what you're saying is that Coca-Cola has basically ruined the world.
Yes.
Okay, good. Glad we can stand by that. This will be the group that we can alienate this episode.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the final suspect.
Oh, yeah.
People reckon that it was the mafia that had influence into this spree of killings, due to the majority of the victims being of Italian descent. And Axeman was thought to have been a mafia hitman. However, the theory was quashed, as many believe the mafia wouldn't have left any survivors.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I'm glad that you were the one having to do the research on this and not me.
You're welcome.
Because that was quite horrifying. And reading, as listeners will know, I'm not one to be like, "Ooh, gore." I'm like,
yeah.
So I would have just crumbled under the weight of doing that research. So now we're going to move on to the part of the episode called What Would Penelope Garcia Do? This is the part where we link people with resources that can help them if they've been affected by one of the issues raised during the episode we've just recapped. So in this case, we have chosen to highlight rape victim support. So Sarah, do you want to take it away with the UK one?
Yep, thank you. So for rape victim support in the UK, there is 24/7 rape and sexual abuse support line, which the phone number is 0808 500 2222. There's also a website, rapecrisis.org.uk. On this website, there's self-help tools, information, and frequently asked questions, along with locations of local crisis centres that you can visit. The NHS website also has information and advice on where to seek help. As always, contact the police if you are in immediate danger.
Thank you, Sarah. So now I'm going to go ahead with the USA. So I want to highlight the National Sexual Violence Resource Centre, or NSVRC, which has information on local support networks available to victims of sexual assault, depending on the state or territory you live in. This includes volunteers who will go to the hospital or the police with you, because this can be a daunting thing to do on your own. Information about your rights or the legal process, connections to counselling, etc. Also, I wanted to highlight the Rape, Abuse and Incest National Network, or RAIN. They organise the National Sexual Assault Telephone Hotline, which is a referral service to put you in contact with a local rape crisis centre. The number is 1-800-656-4673. Or you can access their online chat service, and we'll put all of the links in the podcast description for you.
So that's all for this week, but come back next week when we'll be talking about Criminal Minds Season 1, Episode 5, Broken Mirror.
While you're waiting for the next episode, why not follow us on social media? We're on Instagram at Looking for a Man in His 30s Pod, Tumblr at Looking for a Man in His 30s Pod, or you can email us at lookingforamanhinhis30s@gmail.com. All 3 times, 30s is spelled out. Don't put 30, or you might get one of those bots that Instagram clearly thinks we are.
Yeah. And you can also rate and review us on whichever platform you're using to listen to podcasts. It really helps more than you know.
Until next time.
This case is closed.